or nay? Niue gets off lightly, avoiding the sweeping global trade tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump. 1,000 new air potato larvae have arrived in Niue to combat the invasive air potato vine. And good news for frequent flyers, with the second weekly flights set to start next month. Ke he tautoa nofo motu mo I tautoa holonga niue, whakaloflahi atu. Welcome to BCN News. Confusion continues to ripple across the globe following President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariff announcement that led global stock markets to spiral this week. The upheaval forced Donald Trump to backtrack on his decision, with a 90-day pause on tariffs except for China, whose tax rates on Chinese imports were lifted to 125%. Most Pacific Island countries got off lightly from Trump's tariffs, with 10 given tariffs of 10%. Higher rates were imposed to Vanuatu at 23%, Nauru at 30%, and Fiji at 32%. Meanwhile, Niue and Palau were left out altogether, despite Niue's round relationship with New Zealand and the Cook Islands, who were both slapped with a 10% tariff. BCN News spoke to Dr. Terence Wood, a senior researcher at the Development Policy Centre for the Australian National University, to understand what Trump's New World Order could mean for Niue and the Pacific. Here's the interview. Whakaloflahi atu, Dr. Terence, thank you for speaking with BCN News. What did you make of Trump's tariff announcements? Did they make any sense to you?
No, the tariffs were completely bewildering, really, and bewildering in many ways, but one simply being that the countries that were included and, of course, excluded were just kind of strange. So Trump's team managed to find uninhabited Australian rocks, or rocks that are only inhabited by penguins in the Southern Ocean, and levied special tariffs on them. But by the same token, that somehow they missed out Niue and Palau from tariffs, and that can't have been intentional, because Tokelau and the Cook Islands also received tariffs. There's nothing that different between Niue and those other two realm countries. So it really gives one a sense that it was done in a hurry and without much thought by people who don't really understand the world. And then, of course, we had the announcement overnight that all of the reciprocal tariffs against everyone except China and maybe a couple of other countries have been reversed, which means that every country on Earth, potentially with the exception of Niue and Palau, are now only going to face tariffs of 10%. So that's good news for Fiji, which was the country in the Pacific that was going to be on the receiving end of the highest tariffs. But just overall, the whole process has been kind of puzzling, hard to fathom, really.
Will Trump's tariffs in the Pacific hurt us in any way? I mean, apart from Fiji, is the US a major trading partner of ours?
So most Pacific countries aren't major exporters to the United States. And so in terms of the direct effects, except for Fiji, or at least except for Fiji prior to last night's change of course, and perhaps Vanuatu to an extent, Nauru to an extent, that most Pacific countries weren't really going to feel the direct effects of the tariffs that much. However, there are also the indirect effects, so it really does seem as if the trade war between the US and China is going to have a major negative impact on the global economy.
With this trade showdown between the US and China, what will be the indirect impacts of this New World Order on the Pacific?
A trade war between those two countries is really going to have a disruptive effect on the global economy. And anything that has such a major effect throughout the globe will eventually have some indirect impacts on the Pacific. And those impacts, well, we'll see if Australia and New Zealand, for example, fall into recession, we'll start to see far fewer tourists going in, visiting countries in the Pacific. For a country like Niue, which has such a large expatriate community in New Zealand, once again, a severe recession in New Zealand might lead to reduced remittances, less money to send back home. If New Zealand and Australia slide into recessions, the demand for seasonal workers from countries such as Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, that demand will fall too. And then to the extent that Pacific countries do export things to other markets, a global recession could be harmful just in general because people in those other countries will be consuming less, buying less.
Meanwhile, Niue's Minister of Finance, Crosley Tātui, has responded to the tariff announcements. He spoke to Esther Pāvihi. Here's the story.
Niue's Minister of Trade, Crosley Tātui, said that the government is taking a soft approach when it comes to the United States of America.
Well, I think it's important to mention that we just established diplomatic relations with the U.S. It's a very new relationship that we have taken a very soft approach, especially in terms of the shift of administration from, the former President Biden.
Tātui, who is also the Minister of Finance, said that Niue stopped receiving USAID support back in the 80s, but the government has been receiving annual income through the US treaty facilitated by the Foreign Fisheries Agency.
Over the years, we have received over $1 million, which helps out with our annual appropriation budget. The new setup, according to the government advisors, for the next 5 years, which was agreed upon before the change of the U.S. government administration. For 5 years, the allocation was going to be increased to $2.5 to $3 million per year. Now, because of the rather abrupt changes of the new administration, everybody sort of caught unaware. And there's a lot of unpredictability of what the future holds in terms of the FFA arrangement, the U.S. treaty, as we speak right now.
While Niue may not have a history of trading with the US, there is potential for our honey. Minister Tātui said that the government has always supported the export aspirations of Niue Honey Limited, such as when they facilitated export entry of Niue honey into the EU and England. However, despite exemption from the tariffs, when it comes to the US, Minister Tātui said there is a lot of work to be done.
We already have a very soft approach basis. There are issues like, the complexity of licensing, the bureaucracies, paperwork and all that, notwithstanding the scale of Niue honey capacity to provide the market in the US, which is an enormous market.
BCN News did reach out to the US Embassy in Wellington for comment, but did not receive a response. So while we continue to wonder as to the reasons the US exempted Niue from the tariffs, the Niue government is happy with its soft approach. Esther Pāvihi for BCN News.
In an update from Niue's Public Health Division, a total of 33 influenza A cases have been confirmed since the outbreak was declared on the 26th of March. Almost half of that number were hospitalised, with 13 hospital admissions. The age group with the highest number of cases were teenagers aged 11 to 18 years old. Niue's health department says as they continue to manage the outbreak, they continue to urge the public to follow public health advice and minimise social gatherings, practice safe hygiene, and if unwell, for residents to stay home or seek medical assistance at the Niue for All Hospital. Hundreds of new air potato beetles are set to be released this month, following the arrival of 1,000 new air potato larvae on Friday. The rollout marks the second phase of testing by the Department of Environment, alongside Manaki Whenua Land Care Research, to combat the invasive air potato vine, or hoi, following the introduction of the beetle to Niue in November last year.
There was some evidence that some of the larvae actually survived and became adults, and you could see that by some of the signs feeding on the leaves.
Today, 100 larvae were released at Whanuakula site beside Niue Prison and at a second undisclosed site on the eastern side of the island. Conservation Officer Haga Tongatule says while the Department of Environment had faced heavy criticism for introducing the new species without local consultation, the Biocontrol agent was not a threat to Niue's important plant species.
Obviously, we needed to make sure that the air potato beetle wasn't going to attack those plants as well. And the testing has proven that they will not eat the other closely related plants as well.
In Florida, they also did extra testing of some Niuean plants. The air potato beetles only eat the invasive weed air potato. They will not eat anything else. They would rather starve than eat anything else.
The 900 remaining larvae are currently being reared at Niue's recycling centre and will be released once they have reached maturity. Conservation experts warn that over a third of Niue's plant species are invasive. Research is currently being conducted in New Zealand on 2 native beetles from Fiji and Vanuatu as a potential biocontrol for the invasive devil's ivy, also known as tarovine. Keeping with conservation, it's Niue's most pesky resident, and its population is out of control. Last month, a team of researchers from Manaki Whenua Land Care Research arrived to undertake a comprehensive survey of Niue's invasive paper wasp species. What the Department of Environment hopes will help them to understand their impacts and how they can be managed.
Where I'm from originally in Brazil, we have lots of native paper wasps, so like over 30 species. So there's quite a lot of diversity in that regard. And you would not see anything close to what you see here. There's definitely a lot of them around. And so it's a very, very dense population. And we heard from people as well that this has been a very low year for them. So I find that quite concerning.
Conservationists say the paper wasp may have accidentally been introduced to the Pacific in the 19th and 20th centuries. The species, who trace their origins to Australia, Europe and Asia, are predators hunting native spiders and insects with the potential to disrupt native ecosystems.
Because they didn't evolve here, they won't have any predators or parasites or diseases that would normally attack them in their native areas.
So there's no natural enemies in?
Yeah, nothing. So they'll be pretty much out of control, and that allows them to take over and reach very, very high population numbers. So yeah, it definitely seems to me, even though it's late in the season for them, so they should be already starting to decline. The numbers are just, I don't think I've been anywhere in Niue where I didn't see them flying around. So it's definitely something to address.
The research team says the next step will be finding a biocontrol for wasps in Niue. For the first time, a 2-member team from the New Zealand Transnational Crime Unit were in Niue this week to conduct a foundational intelligence workshop. Here's more on this story.
A 2-day workshop focused on developing capacity and upskilling for the Niue Transnational Crime Unit, or TCU, and their partner agencies was held this week at NDMO. New Zealand Transnational Crime Unit Senior Pacific Advisor Ave Vayu explained to BCN News on their key role as an organisation.
The New Zealand Transnational Crime Unit is part of the Pacific Transnational Crime Network, where there are 20 plus TCUs across 20 plus countries. So we support capacity development and information sharing between the Pacific region countries, and New Zealand and Australia support that in the capacity development.
Sessions included learning the intelligence cycle with group discussions and presentations, as well as scenario activities.
And it's our first time, and it's the first time we're delivering the foundational intelligence workshop. It's a 2-day workshop where we deliver the basics of intelligence cycle just to help them and support them, and they're probably already doing it in their day-to-day, but kind of formalising that learning, and okay, this part of your function is actually called this part of the intel cycle. So then it gets them thinking, and the curious minds just kind of, okay, what else can I do to make this better? How can I do my role or my task or my functions better than what I'm currently doing? So it's just being able to give them the tools that they need to make Niue safer.
The NZTCU and Niue TCU are part of a 21-country-strong Pacific transnational crime network. The Niue TCU is a portfolio within the Niue Police that consists of representatives from the Niue Immigration, Niue Customs, and Niue Biosecurity and DEF.
Today we are going to go through and cover the different part of the intelligence cycle, and that's we'll be doing some activities, some scenarios, kind of just putting the learning to relate to what they're doing every day. So how they can do those things better by, okay, this part of function, we call that collecting information. How can we keep our community safe, and how can we do that by collecting the information? How do we go about in doing those? It's It's the why and the what.
Members of the Pacific Transnational Crime Network collaborate to monitor and disrupt transnational crime in the Pacific region. NZTCU works closely with Niue TCU to assist and support its members. The New Zealand Transnational Crime Unit team coordinated their travel alongside New Zealand Immigration as part of a collaboration to support Niue. Mersa Takala, BCN News.
The countdown is on for the much-anticipated Niue Arts Festival to be held in Alofi this month. Niue's Minister for Education and Social Services told Meresa Takala that preparations were well underway. Here's more on this story.
The Niue Arts Festival is making a return after a lapse of a few years. Minister for Social Services, Honourable Sonia Talangi, said they are working closely with community groups and artists on the island to ensure this year's event is a success.
I think it's going as well as could be expected. Joe, who's coordinating the festival, has done a fantastic job and is working closely with the different community groups and artists in the community, and I'm grateful for the partnerships that have been formed and everybody working together to ensure that the celebration is a success.
Honourable Talangi said they are excited to bring back the festival and hope families will come out with their children to enjoy all the exhibitions and activities.
What I had envisaged for the 50th celebrations was festivals, core festivals during the school holidays in particular. We started with the music festival in October. We moved into arts festival because traditionally we've been having arts festivals in April, and then looking at a short film and drama festival in the June-July school holidays. For this, it's funny because it started off with visual arts. I kept getting told off because arts covers those three areas, but visual arts is not just paintings on the walls, it's sculptures, it's handcrafts, it's carvings, there's digital art as well. So it also kind of ballooned, but mindful that we're still having once weekly flights and mindful of how previous arts festivals have been operated, and it's a phenomenal task and stressful for the organising group committee. We decided to slim it down, to focus on these arts.
She hopes the three-day festival is a celebration of our unique Niuean culture and tradition and an opportunity to showcase our work to everyone visiting the island.
Well, as a Niuean, I think that there's less than 50,000 of us in the world, and as highlighted by one of the parents, so many people, millions if not billions of people can speak English, but not many can speak our language, not many can practice our culture and embrace our heritage as it is. So yes, our culture and traditions are important. It's just part of our identity, and it's something that I hope more and more of us will be able to appreciate and to build on in years to come.
You can check out the Niue 50th Constitution Celebration Facebook page for all the scheduled lineup of events from April 22nd to the 24th. Mersa Takala, BCN News.
If you're flying out tomorrow, note the flight will be arriving an hour later due to the changes in daylight savings over the weekend. And good news for frequent flyers as the second weekly flight is set to start next month. Here's Esther Pavihi again.
Local agent Peleni's travel agency has confirmed that there will be changes to the flight times for a New Zealand flight tomorrow due to the changes in the daylight savings. The flight tomorrow, NZ 936, will arrive at just after 1 p.m. It will depart Niue at 2:20 p.m. and arrive Auckland at just after 5 p.m. in the evening. Check-in will commence at 8 a.m. tomorrow until 12 midday. Security doors will open from 11 until 12:30 p.m. And in addition to the Friday flights, the second weekly flight will start on Monday, the 5th of May, until further notice. Esther Pavihi for BCN News.
It's a thrilling month for the island this April with a chock-a-block calendar of events lined up. This Saturday, the village of Hikutavake will kick off the annual Village Showdays circuit. Meanwhile, sports enthusiasts won't want to miss round 2 of the Rugby League games taking place at the Hakupu Village Showgrounds on the same day. Niue High School's annual athletics competition have been heating up with field events already underway. The final athletics day has been rescheduled to April 30th after the sports team's uniforms failed to arrive on time. The school break is just around the corner, with students enjoying a well-deserved break from next Monday, April 14th to April 25th. Stay tuned for more updates on upcoming events, including the annual Anzac commemorations on Friday, April 25th. BCN News will be across all the action happening in Niue this month. You can follow our social media for more. That's our show for tonight. If you have a story to share, you can contact us on our Facebook or Instagram page, or you can visit us at the Met Office. A special whakalofā atu to our viewers from across the region and to our partners at Pacifica TV. I'm Moana Makapeluli, monui nei po.